Welcome to the Peace Talk, this time with a special guest, Ngai-Ling Sum. She's a British sociologist, political economist, and co-director of the Cultural Political Economy Research Center at Lancaster University. She was awarded the British Academy BARDA Award in 2008 for her work with Bob Jessop on Changing Cultures of Competitiveness, a cultural political economy approach. Her work has appeared in several peer-reviewed academic journals. She's currently on the editorial board of Pacific Review and Kazarinlan, Philippine Journal on Third World Studies. She's also program director of Master on Globalization and the Information Age, Post-Disciplinary Perspectives, and the co-director of master programs. She published several books and scientific articles. Ngai-Ling, I'm very glad and honored that you found the time for this interview.
Well, it's an honor to be invited, and then to meet new people and see, how they would use the work, and, this is my honor. Please, start when you're ready. Yes.
Thank you very much. First of all, before we get deeper into your field of research, I have some other questions, personal related questions. What motivated you to study?
Yes, what motivated me to study? Well, it has something got to do with my background, I guess. I was brought up in the British colony of Hong Kong. I saw, as a child, the everyday life of colonialism, capitalism, racism, and inequality. But as a child, of course, I lacked the conceptual tool to understand them in a better way. So then I was an undergraduate in Birmingham University and was exposed to E.P. Thompson's book on the making of the British working class. And of course, other political economy writing. And that opened my eyes. From then onwards, I was motivated to find out more about political economy and was, of course, given my background, was especially interested in capitalism, colonialism, hegemony, domination, the subaltern, and inequality. So that was what motivated me, okay? It's since childhood, I guess, but seeing, okay, those everyday life, but don't know how to make sense of them in a way. So, that was how I begin in a way.
Yeah, and did you have any academic role models back then? Did they change or?
Yes, I do have academic models. As I said, back to the first question, and that is given my interest and motivation, Marx was obviously my first academic model. Then from Marx, I then moved from, Marx to Gramsci. And then was given the age I was doing my PhD and teaching and researching, I was also exposed to post-structuralism, work by Foucault, through, this sort of, period of over 30 years. Of course, this challenging approach and the concept, that I use, or rather read, and, coming from Marx, Gramsci, and Foucault. So I would say that, I got more than one role model, Marx, Gramsci, and Foucault. And their challenging approach and concept, obviously give rise to the subsequent development together with Bob Jessop, our cultural political economy approach. And if you don't mind, in this interview, I will just use the word CPE, as a shorthand, for cultural political economy. Otherwise, I'll keep, sort of saying the whole thing, and I guess that's easier in certain ways.
Yeah, of course, it's easier. Yes, you're right. I enjoyed your books, and I love the how can I say, the marriage between Gramsci and Foucault, because I love Foucault. And he can be useful because many Marxists do not pay attention enough to Foucault, and this is a big leak in the left academic circle. So I'm very glad and yeah.
Oh wow!
Inspired by your work.
Meeting of minds here. Oh, lovely. So.
And my next question is, how can we use Gramsci and Foucault in order to understand capitalism better?
Well, I would say co-using Marx, Gramsci, and Foucault, okay? Because of course, from my point of view, in the development of CPE, one could not, do without Marx, Gramsci, and Foucault, as far as I'm concerned. Of course, from Marx, I learned to focus on the making of social relation in capitalism. So capitalism, of course, is the starting point. So the making of social relation in capitalism, and of course, the dialectics of struggle, etc., etc. But however, these more macro structural focus of Marx tend to leave the meso and the micro processes of capitalism under-examined. Okay, the meso level of agency, okay, back to the structuration debate, okay, structure agency. So it seems to me, okay, Marx has done a wonderful job, but on the other hand, okay, you just find, okay, what about the meso level? Okay, what about even the micro level, the microphysics of discourse and discursive technology? So this is why, I just sort of, thought about, okay, what can we do? I've been thinking about it for 25 years, what can we do about it? So what can we do about it? So in that sense, in cultural political economy, we try to search for the macro, meso, and micro processes, okay, that tries to, in a way, without overclaiming, but try to, in a way, broadening Marx's work by staging an encounter between Marx, Gramsci, and Foucault. And of course, we well understood that there are theoretical tension, okay, et cetera, dissonance, okay, there's resonance and there's dissonance, okay? But the question is, if we still need to find, from my point of view, need to find a way to interweaving them in certain ways. This is why I'm using the word interweaving, okay? Of course, there are gaps, all right, et cetera, like any interwave. Oh, sorry, not interwave, interweave, okay? But, all right, we still, from my point of view, have to find some ways. So for Marx, of course, CPE, cultural political economy, focuses on the structure, superstructure, and social relation. From Gramsci, we focus on hegemony and hegemony making. In other words, it's the hegemonization process. In other words, it's not just simply identifying this hegemony out there, but what is the process, okay? So the hegemonization process, and of course, within hegemonization process, you have hegemony negotiation, okay, resistance, counter-hegemony, okay, and even sub-hegemony, et cetera, And then from Foucault, CPE focuses on the discourse, discipline, the disciplinary aspect, and the governmentality of everyday life, from the biopolitics to the necropolitics, okay, that contribute towards the constitution of subjectivity, identity, and even feelings, okay, the subjectivity, the feeling of it, okay, the political economy of emotion in certain ways. So in that way, okay, we try to venture, into the interweaving of Marx, Gramsci, and Foucault, and possibly, in a way, enable us to understand better the macrostructural social relation and the making of capitalist hegemony in the micro grammar of discursive construction. In other words, it's at the same time trying to excavate, okay, the micro grammar, okay, of discursive construction. Of course, okay, these are full of, okay, contestation, okay, negotiation, et cetera. So in short, it's trying to get to the articulation between the micro, meso, and micro foundation of capitalist economy and their transformation. So I don't know whether I'm answering your question, but it's really trying to, okay, staging an encounter. I'm quite careful here in using the word staging an encounter, I know lots of people will come in and said that you can't do it, as you in your beginning, okay, when you started off, okay, the interview, you said that yourself, okay. Of course, I know that there are people who said, how dare you to do that, But on the other hand, okay, if you don't start and you don't try, but at least I know the pitfall, not that I'm not aware of the pitfall, but it's still trying to interweave in certain way with lots of holes, with lots of gaps, okay, with lots of ways where one can say that, oh, this is not right, okay. Yes, of course, but nonetheless, okay, there's nothing wrong with trying, okay, in academic, in the academic world. That's what we enter academic world for. Well, for me anyway. Okay, so I don't know whether I'm answering the question, but anyway.
Yeah, it's quite normal, and you said it in many talks that can be found on YouTube as well. That there is tensions, that there is tension and resonance between Gramsci and Foucault, and I believe this is normal if you put two thinkers together that lived in different places in a different time. So it's quite normal, and we have to think about the positives that we can draw from each thinker
and
the analytical
aware. Yeah. In other words, how can we improve our analytical tool?
Yeah.
As a result of interweaving them, as opposed to not interweave them. Okay, so that would be, I would even say it's only the starting point, and of course, waiting for younger scholars like yourself, and others, okay, to fill more of the gaps. We're getting now, but
yeah, I hope so. Yes. And what I found quite amazing and inspiring is that you and Bob Jessop are working on this together for so long and so many years, and he is more an expert on Gramsci, if I'm correct, and you are the master. And like he quoted, he said that you're the mastermind behind the concepts and books and so on and so forth. So you are the Foucaultian genius, so to speak.
We're trying to, sort of do some interweaving.
And together, you work on this term of Foucaultizing Gramsci.
Yes, Foucaultizing Gramsci. Yes, there's a lot of term, but I don't think really in an interview I can explain it adequately. But I would just, to be honest, okay, refer people to the book. And as I said, or rather, I always say that in interview or lecture, that if anybody who's interested in the book, okay, please just write to me, and then I can send a PDF version of the book free. Okay, I'm more interested in people joining the game, well, not the game, okay, joining, the adventure, the academic adventure. Okay, opposed to this and that, But anyway,
yeah. Understandable, yes, because it goes deeper and deeper, and then
yes, exactly.
Yeah, I understand. So using both Gramsci and Foucault is one part, and then with, I believe, Joachim Hirsch and other Polantzas and of course the work from Bob Jessop, there is this the term strategic selectivity.
Yes.
What do you mean by strategic selectivity in the sense of cultural political economy?
Yes. Well, given that CPE, sorry, given that CPE focuses on the microphysics of the macro production of hegemony in the making of social relation, of course, strategic selectivity, especially strategic selectivity in an evolutionary manner, referring back to Bob's work, okay, selection, retention, and institutionalization, that kind of, evolutionary manner. Strategic selectivity is obviously very important, as it informs how structure, such as capital-labor relations, are strategically inscribed to favor and of course, at the same time, could constrain particular strategy and interest. But however, strategic selectivity is important, but we still need to acquire a deeper meaning, a deeper and even broader meaning in cultural political economy. And this is why when we deal with strategic selectivity, we do not only deal with the structural selectivity, of course, structure select, but at the same time, okay, we try to deepen this selectivity, okay, concept by introducing agential selectivity. Okay, by agential selectivity, of course, we mean social agent actors do make a difference. Okay, they make a difference in terms of, okay, they might have a different reading of the conjuncture. They might, okay, combine or reinvent discourses in certain way with different technology, or combining the different discursive technology. So agency matters, that who's the agency, the selectivity of the agency. Not only agential selectivity, but discourse matter, of course. Discourse matter because discourse, okay, enforce certain selection of meaning. In other words, the discourse itself is enforcing, okay, or rooted in enforcing a selectivity of certain meaning. How do they frame it? Okay, what is the limit of this framing? How do they frame imaginary? How do they frame argument? How do they frame identity and even feelings? Okay, as I was alluded to, okay, earlier on. Okay, the political economy of emotion, the emotion of hope and fear, the hope of, okay, economic growth, but at the same time, the fear of, okay, economic growth as well. So in a sense that, okay, discursive selectivity is also important. And if you use and really serious about Foucault, is the technological selectivity as well. The technological selectivity of a Foucauldian sense, of course, okay, you know, it's the discursive selectivity, okay, of how those knowledge are being assemblaged together. Okay, what is the depositive like? Okay, what are the specific objectification, subjectification, and knowledge and technology that are being used to shape choice, to shape capacity, okay, to normalize intervention or not, as the case may be. So in other words, back to your original question, and that is, okay, you know, what do you mean by strategic selectivity in cultural political economy? Is we seek to deepen it, not deepen and broaden it. Deepen and broaden it, not just simply to look at the selectivity of structure, but agential selectivity, discursive selectivity, and technological selectivity. And this, of course, the technological selectivity, and of course, the magic question is how do you do it? Okay, it's no point, you know, conceptually, all right, you know, you got all these selectivities, all right, and you're deepening it, okay, and you are, okay, broadening it, okay, beyond the structure, beyond structural selectivity. But the question is, of course, how do you do it? Okay, so, but anyway, this is how we try to, okay, in a way, back to your question, what do we mean by strategic selectivity in cultural political economy? We see it in terms of 4 aspects: structural, agential, discursive, and technological in a Foucauldian sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's quite amazing, and it's like a tool, and you can use it.
Exactly.
And you can use it, for example, to explain how a policy did happen and what are the pathways towards
the
certain
path dependency as well.
Dependencies, yeah, towards a certain
the path shaping, and at the same time the path dependency. Okay, of if you're interested in policy. Okay, CPE is a very broad church, so you enter. Okay, you know. Yeah. Do it, you know, whichever way, okay, your own standpoint and your own entry point even.
Yeah, that's quite amazing. Yeah. And you take the cultural and discursive turn very seriously. That's what interests me even more to your work. And yeah. And now you mentioned emotion as well. So you take the emotional turn also very seriously. That many feminist scholars pointed out. For example, Nancy Fraser and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it makes it even more broader and yeah.
And by the way, the emotional side is not in the 2013 book. Okay, it's our subsequent, or rather my own subsequent development, which I'm busy trying to negotiate with Bob. Okay, how do you put it in?
very, very interesting.
Yeah. So I just thought I'll mention that, because, if people read our 2013 book, they might not be able to find that aspect because, there's 10 years on, not quite. Yeah. Not quite, 10 years yet, 9 years, but nonetheless, okay. Yeah. So I'll point that out in interviews.
Very interesting, yes. Yeah, it's very important to understand how socio-economic reconstructing is happening. So, and certain politics are shaped and so on and so forth. And in one lecture, you also examined the discourse from the World Economic Forum, and and it was amazing how they provided a toolkit and training courses and a whole set of knowledge and so on.
The whole assemblage of, if you use Freudian term for it, and
it's quite amazing how this technology works, and then the state or state apparatus use this knowledge in order to implement their own politics.
Re-contextualize, if you use a CPE way of saying it is, in other words, okay, this is, the depositive, the global depositive, so to say, and then, each nation, each think tank, each whatever, okay, is recontextualizing it to their own particular, okay, sort of strategic interest.
Yeah. So you are going back to the Foucaultian context of power is knowledge, knowledge is power.
Yes.
So basically,
using that as well, using that, in CPE, very much so. Otherwise you cannot get to the microphysics, the microgrammar of it. What is the microgrammar, okay, of this sort of hegemony? Okay, not just simply describe the hegemony, but how does the hegemony come about?
And what we know shapes our world, so to speak. With,
in our feelings.
So it's clear.
Yes, our subjectivity. We then thought, oh, it's very hopeful now. Okay, we are now into our artificial intelligence. Fourth industrial revolution. Those things. But anyway.
Yeah, now that's what I wanted to examine in my PhD. I'm going to examine the discourse on sustainability, the fight of natural resources, and so on and so forth. And the discourse of Klaus Schwab is very interesting for me because, and there I can use your work as well.
And he is the original organic intellectual. Yeah,
with Gramsci, yes, organic intellectual.
Yes. And one thing again is, back to, while we're chatting about it, one thing back to, the sort of CPE way of doing it is to take the analysis of organic intellectual seriously. And not just simply describe them, okay, oh, they are so and so, okay, or certain think tank, okay, organic intellectual. But how does this intellectual actually work? Actually construct, actually, give rise to, okay, certain imaginary, et cetera, et cetera. I think that is, from my point of view, quite crucial.
Yes. And he's also a very quite interesting figure, maybe in the negative sense, because he's the self-dubbed father of the fourth industrial revolution. His work was published in 26 languages, and he's not the greatest academic. So it is quite amazing how popular his work is. Over 1 million copies sold, and so on and so forth. So
exactly.
And he's shaping the discourse on a very high level, and
yes.
So we have to take these discourses very seriously. That's one thing.
I entirely agree with you, and I do encourage you, to really work on it, and get at, the specific, not just simply, okay, of course, Klaus Schwab is important. Yes, we all know that, but how important is important?
Yeah, and you mentioned in one of your courses and lectures that there is this first theoretical paradigm, then the policy paradigm, then the management, consultancy knowledge.
Yes.
For example, then you said, okay, the classical Harvard business schools and so on and so forth. And this all offers a policy advice. Then we have this cluster strategy and so on and so forth. And with all keeping all this in mind, this is how we get to our knowledge and to our path and dependencies and so on and so forth. And there we can see the
This is how we get to our common sense.
Yes.
If one used the Gramsci way of saying it, you know, I mean, the common sense of competitiveness, the common sense of, okay, you know, and of course, you know, each recontextualize that common sense. You know, it could be, you know, recontextualized to cluster strategy. It could be recontextualized to sustainability. You know, I mean, you know, could be, you know.
And I believe this was always the work and the idea and the inspiration of Foucault to show what is normal and to denormalize it, to deconstruct it. So to show the power system behind the normalization, behind the process of normalization.
Yes, agree entirely.
That's why I love Foucault.
But that's why, as I said, you know, I mean, as you know, the question you asked me, I did say that I started with Marx and Gramsci, and I discovered Foucault. And oh my God! Oh dear! You know, what do I do now? You know.
And I also love the term that you used, World-Class-Guru-Academic-Consultancy. So that is the new term for explaining the organic intellectuals.
Yes.
And there are many of them. There are
many of them.
And they are well paid. They are well paid. They are working in high-class institutions.
Yes. They occupied a certain position, you know.
Yeah, that's
and
unfortunate, but
reproducing that position, you know.
So this is one part how the knowledge is shaping and our society, and power structure. Then also I was very fascinated by your work. You draw also from Foucault, the transformation or the evolvement, or how can I explain it, from the panoptic knowledge to synoptic knowledge.
Ah, wow, you were in that lecture then.
No, it's very amazing how we can use Foucault's terminology to explain our society. It's It's no longer just panopticon, it's synopticon. You know, the whole World Economic Forum and others, you know, are synoptic nowadays. You know, it almost hypnotized. Well, not quite, but you know, seductive. Let me put it that way. Seductive. It's like performativity. They are self-performing.
Yes.
It's like going into a church. It's like the same rituals.
Yes.
They are explaining to each other how the world functions, and they start to believe how the world functions.
Yes, and bring it back. And bring it back, yes. Anyway, yes.
It's like a big theater, and a big stage.
Big theater. Yep.
It's quite amazing, yes. And the difference between panoptic and synoptic is that on the one hand, it's more, how can I explain it? It's more structured, and now it's more open, so everybody can watch it. Yes.
It's all related, obviously, at the same time to the internet age, you know, to the development of technology, you know, that make this possible, etc., you know. But of course, okay, you know, I mean, capitalism, organic intellectual are not slow on those things. You know, they are always faster than we are. I always think that, you know, we sometimes even, you know, have a hard time in catching up with them. But anyway, well, I'm trying.
That's true. Yeah. So, okay, back to cultural political economy approach and back to strategic selectivity in this sense. So how can we use how can we approach, how can this approach that you're working on so many years can be useful of examine also capitalist transformation? What is its value added?
Yes. Well, cultural political economy, of course, okay, as we were, sort of talking about it earlier, okay, we try to move from strategic selectivities to the 4 selectivities, from structural, agential, discursive to technology, so technological selectivity. But of course, these 4 selectivities, they are conceptual tools, as we just, sort of more or less, they are tools, okay, heuristic device. And of course, they can be used to examine capitalist transformation, especially crisis period. Okay, they are, from my point of view, okay, very useful in examining crisis period. Especially during crisis period, there is the need to remake hegemony in certain ways, or renegotiate, okay, the hegemony. So the value added of CPE, okay, is how these 4 selectivity can be pulled down to earth a little bit more. Okay, not just simply, oh, there are 4 selectivity, as I said, in the last question, and that is, how do you make it work? Okay, how do you make it work? So this is why we try to pull down those 4 selectivity and then talk about it in terms of 7 moments. Okay, if you like, the heuristic tour in CPE is the 4 selectivity and 7 moments. Okay, and the 7 moments are obviously the material discursive moment, okay? And some moments are obviously more discursive and some moments are obviously more macro-structural in nature. So I don't know whether, I just, no, it's all in the book, okay? But, I just quickly, okay, say quickly what are the 7 moments, okay? As I said earlier, some moments are more discursive and others are more agential and others are more structural. So the 7 moments in the production of hegemony and counter-hegemony, okay, in capitalist restructuring is, first one we would say is discursive strategic moment, okay? In other words, with crisis, okay, so there is a need to remake, there's a need to, okay, re-narrate the situation. So there's this discursive strategic moment. But who's going to do the narration? It's not just simply looking at the narration and the discourse. It's at the same time the agency who are doing the narration, okay, who are doing the story, okay? So agential selective moment, okay? Of course, the agential selective moment are rooted in social formation, okay? Are they prime minister? Are they the Klaus Schwab? Are they whoever? So the agential selective moment. And even if we are looking at the discourse, most of the time they are combining discourses, okay, in remaking, such as, say, for example, okay, are they combining, say, discourse, okay, of the covert, okay, with discourse, okay, of, okay, capitalist restructuring, all right, that kind of interdiscursive, not just simply discursive, but they're combining discourses, combining genre, combining things. So the interdiscursive selective moment to rebuild the order of the discourse, or rather the grammar of the discourse. So of course, this interdiscursive has sometimes involved reinventing technology. Reinventing technology could be, the statistical technology, could be, okay, indexes, could be, okay, if you like, okay, whatever the technological selectivity itself is. And of course, it's not just simply the discursive, the agential, the interdiscursive, the technological, but how do they constitute, okay, to remake a depositive? Not only remaking a depositive, but how do they consolidate subject position and at the same time sedimenting as common sense? Okay, in other words, okay, what kind of common sense? Is the common sense, what is the current sustainability common sense? Okay, how do they, okay, consolidate that subject position? And of course, not consolidating a subjectivity and common sense, but at the same time, at the moment, we'll talk about the re-regularization of social relation? Is it rebuilding green capitalism? Is it rebuilding, Green New Deal? And what in fact is Green New Deal? What are they trying to re-regularize in terms of and sedimenting social relation? And of course, none of these things, are smooth. Of course, it comes with counter-hegemony, all right, even sub-hegemony, or, a sort of, if you like, resistance of some kind or another and negotiation. So in other words, from the four selectivity, we work out those 7 moments. Some moments are more discursive, some are more agential, some are more interdiscursive, some are more consolidating into structure, and some are more counter-hegemonic. Of course, as I said, 4 selectivity and 7 moments, they are heuristic devices, tools, as you have said, And this moment should not be understood sequentially. In other words, they are not a sequence, They can be adapted and rethought for specific research agenda. Like yourself, I don't know your work, but from what you've said, maybe the focus is more on the discourse of it. Fine, so you rethought, for your own particular research agenda, and the question is we do recommend, people choose their own entry point, because, one could choose the entry point of, more discourse, one could choose the, entry point of more agential, one could choose a more structural entry point. So scholars are recommended, to develop their own device even, from these sort of broad, 4 selectivity, 7 moment, they should choose their own, entry point, develop their own device and examine both the semiotic and structural aspect, and in fact, at the same time, in their co-evolution and how they interweave. So of course, as you have quite rightly said, in earlier, exchange, you were saying that, my entry point is more discursive. And of course, Bob Jessop's entry point is more structural, et cetera, et cetera. So as I said, each, you choose your entry point, which is most suitable, for your own, purpose. And of course, the most important thing, I always say that in lectures as well, and that is your entry point, please, is not your exit point. In other words, you don't enter discourse and exit with discourse. You enter with discourse, but bring out a bit more than discourse, the extra discursive, and vice versa, I would say. And in this way, as you seem to know my work, so it's no point me telling you now, but anyway, so my work, has been trying to examine or using this approach to examine the discourse of competitiveness, the discourse of BRIC, the idea of BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and how it remake China, et cetera, et cetera. Other thing, I talk about, China's land property discourse in some other work, and how it mediates the making of land-led financial mode of accumulation, and those people who under this sort of property regime, rising property prices, property is no longer as housing, but property as investment and speculative, sort of instrument. So of course, more recently, I've been working on China's One Belt, One Road, which stretches from China all the way to Europe, Africa, and building infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I said more recently, I'm more interested in the COVID, et cetera.
Yeah.
Et cetera. So,
before we go a little bit deeper into China, in my opinion, it's quite difficult, and it's a thin line. For example, if we take global indexes, for example, you once said that this is the panoptic number order, and my difficulties, for example, on one hand, not to objectify this knowledge, to say, okay, this is objective knowledge, statistics and like natural sciences. On the other hand, on the other hand, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist that believe that these indexes are in order to establish a certain kind of politics, or so it's, you know what I mean? It's quite in yeah, how to draw this thin line, how to denormalize, how to deconstruct without, yeah.
How to you mean how to deconstruct the order, or how do you I'm not 100%.
The power, how to to show the power system behind these indexes, or the strategic selectivity behind these indexes. For example, if we take indexes, or Green New Deal, for example, if I want to show that the Green New Deal is preferable for certain industries, or for certain kind of elites, classes, and so on and so forth. So yeah,
of course, you know, I believe you mentioned conspiracy theory, okay? You know, in other words, okay, how can we avoid, okay, being accused of, okay? I guess that's the question. I don't know. No, I would. This is why I keep, whenever I do it, I keep on emphasizing that we are not just simply trying to, okay, excavate the order. We are trying at the same time to talk about the disorder.
Yeah.
Disorder of it, the gaps of it. Do you see what I'm trying to say? And the opening that are available, okay, for a slightly different interpretation, for denormalizing, and then come up with alternative. And this is why it is important, okay, at the same time to talk about the production of hegemony, but at the same time the production of counter hegemony.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm answering your
perfect. Yes.
Okay. So this is why, okay, if read the book or read whatever, okay, no, times, okay, especially in articles, more difficult to deal with both sides, okay, of course, okay. No, you're only given 8,000 words, okay, so you try to cram everything in, you know. But on the other hand, if you ask me that question, which I am myself very aware of, okay, and that is, okay, the accusation of being, you know, conspiratorial, then I would say, okay, you know, one need to be careful of basically put back counter hegemony in, talk about the gaps. Of course, there are gaps. Okay, you know, there are gaps, okay? And of course, they are very, at the same time, once the gaps are recognized, they are very busy in coming back to fill the gap. Very quickly. And if not, they recognize the gap, they're very quickly in coming in and give it a different meaning.
Yeah, absolutely agree, yes.
So it's not so much of just conspiracy, okay? No, of course, if you stop the analysis at one point in time, then you can accuse people of anything. Okay.
Yeah, true.
But enough of conspiracy there. But well, if I've answered the question, then I don't want to dwell on it.
True.
Is that? Am I answering your question?
Yeah, perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And within capitalism, for example, this is the new mode of reproduction, and like when we use regulation theory, for example, this is the new mode of regulating capitalism, so to speak. Yes. So capitalism is in this age and time self-destructing, and now we need to find new ways of regulation, new ways of reproduction. So that's why green capitalism changed the face of capitalism, but it's more or less the same. The same system.
Yeah. They came in and then re-narrated, you know, re-narrated in certain ways. And the question is they still need gaps, okay? And the question is, okay, as for denormalization, back to your question, and that is, we need to look for the gaps.
Yeah.
Okay, and not only look for the gaps, but how do we in other words, it's almost a discursive race. Okay?
Yeah. I don't know the exact English word, but Gramsci put it in Grabenkämpfe. in these fights, in this line, you know, in the war, there's this line, and there you hide, and then you fight.
The cat and mouse.
Yeah. So we're in this discursive war.
To start off with.
Yeah. And I find it quite interesting in your book, in the early chapter, you also draw this ontological distinction between semiosis on one hand and structuration on the other hand, and you both combine it. And this is where the analytical plus is getting from. For example, Marx, in my opinion, is privileging the structure and the materialist point of view. And on the other hand, Foucault is privileging semiosis and how discourses are shaping structure. And both together can be very useful. So yes.
And
to sum it
Gramsci,
up.
So Gramsci is the mediating.
Okay, yeah.
Entry point is hegemony and hegemony, of course.
Yeah. If I may, before we get into China, because
yes, of course.
Not many days ago, I published with Leo Gabriel a book zur imperialen Lebensweise on the imperial mode of living. And it has a foreword by Professor Ulrich and Professor Markus Wissen. And you also had a few months ago a very interesting discussion about the book, The Imperial Mode of Living by Professor Ulrich Brandt.
The Rosa Luxemburg, Rosa Luxemburg, who I don't know, I can't remember now, review or something.
And I watched it very carefully because, you know, Ulrich Brandt is my teacher. I wrote my master thesis with him, and now I published this book. So I find it very, very inspiring and very useful, this discussion about the term imperial mode of living. Like you said, one of your critique or dialectics that you wanted to mention is what is the ensemble of hegemonic apparatus and expertises. So now you're asking the question of the organic intellectuals. And then you asked what are the discourse technologies that translate this imperial mode of living. So I found it quite interesting, the discussion about the usefulness of this term, and how does it work on when we look at the global south, or
how did it recontextualize? Okay, I think basically is, you know, the difference there is, you know, Uli would like to use the, well, I'm talking about the book, okay, of course, you know,
of course.
He uses the term universalization, which from my point of view is just one need to be a bit more careful there, especially without back to your question, and that is without being seen as being just slightly conspiratorial. Slightly, I'm not saying, just slightly, but the question is how do you tread this sensitive line, which I was talking about. This is why, you know, from my point of view, I prefer to use the word recontextualize and actually work on the recontextualization, which is another ball game, ball game, because they each differ, they each recombine with their agency, their own selectivity, discourse and their own technology that's available that might convince people that particular site.
And also he mentioned the attraction of this imperial mode of living. It's attracted, it's attracting for many people, even in the global south. You get some cars and a big house and
yes, but still need to be recontextualized. Yes, he's talking about probably the seduction of it, but how does the seduction combine with national will and national way of thinking about these sort of things, which from my point of view, I think one should one should open up the question of the articulation between the global, national, and local.
Yeah, I agree, yes. So, okay, let's move to my last question. You talked about China, and you're focusing now nowadays more on China's politics and geopolitics and One World, One Belt initiative. So my question is related.
And COVID as well.
Yes, yes. So how would you examine China's mode of growth and its global reach before and in the midst of the COVID crisis, and how would you explain to our audience the China-US trade and tech wars, and maybe the Ukraine war now is also related? Is also related to China, because I read a Twitter post from a Chinese foreign minister that quoted the real threat is the US. So and then he cynically quoted the US democracy tours and regime changes and the wars that the US and he's right on
These
that.
are very complicated topics.
But it's complicated.
Yeah,
yes,
we'll try. Whereas, as I said, this is a very big topic.
Yes, I know.
A complicated topic. No, and I will just, of course, briefly, talk about one or two aspects of it, especially with reference to cultural political economy. Well, if we try to sort of apply cultural political economy, which we were just, alluding to, then I would say that the structural selectivity of the COVID crisis and the current US-China trade or technology war or tension, of course, like anywhere, it hits China as well. Not that it doesn't hit China, but it hits China, especially its authoritarian capitalism, in the following ways. Of course, it hits it by beginning people talk about the decoupling of the global supply chain. Globally, energy shortage, especially with the Ukraine war now. Global energy shortage, rising energy prices, rising commodity prices, and of course, the building up of, debt, debt of the central government, local government, and even real estate debt in the case of China. Now, the question is of course, this is accentuated, or escalated by the arrival of Omicron, because Omicron hit China in a different way, because China wanted zero Omicron policy. So since 2021, there's a lot more Omicron lockdown, of individual cities, towns, etc., etc. So this lockdown, give rise to or triggered fall in export, decline in investment. There's a sort of, if you like, half recession going on in China, and there is a danger now of a possible vicious cycle. The vicious cycle of falling prices, property foreclosure, in other words, with the Ukraine war, you can see, the fall of the ruble, not only the fall of the ruble, it was set 30% or something, and of course, it bounced back a bit, but still, rising prices, debt crisis, people, worried about what to do next, and in the case of China, even the debt crisis and highly leveraged property infrastructure, big corporation. In other words, they put too much money in infrastructure building and in property, and now property is no longer a hot potato, in a sense that people are now nervous about property being investment, not nervous about property being housing. Of course, property is always housing, but with capitalism, with land-led financial capitalism, property becomes an object of speculation. And one could, look at, the advertisement, all the, kind of property culture, from a Foucauldian viewpoint, but I won't go into that, all right? So, of course, with all these changing, the vicious circle is coming to China as well. So these structural changes, of course, is not favorable to the legitimacy or the performance legitimacy of the party state of China. And of course, from an agential selectivity point of view, okay, the identity selectivity is China still an authoritarian party state. They selectively reinvent their hope-based object. In other words, giving more hope now, okay? No, construction of hope, okay? The politics of emotion of hope, okay? So giving hope by alluding to, okay, Klaus Schwab, Klaus Schwab, fourth industrial revolution. Okay, the world is going to pick up our previous discussion. Okay, accumulation by artificial intelligence. Okay, the next round of fourth industrial revolution, data capitalism, etc., etc. So of course they are producing and selectively producing and hegemonizing AI, artificial intelligence leadership as part of their national competitiveness. Okay, AI owned firm Huawei selling 5G network all over the world, through One Belt, One Road, even the current discourse of digital Silk Road. It's not just simply, that Silk Road that go from Asia, Middle East, Latin America, Europe, and Africa, selling infrastructure, selling, if you like, highways, selling, energy, construction, parks, or rather science park, how do you build science park, etc., etc. Not only selling those now, it's because those are expensive. Okay, they already got themselves and the host country into debt. So go for the cheaper option. Cheaper and faster option. What are the cheaper and faster option? It takes a long time to build highway. Okay, so cheaper and faster option maybe, cable network, 5G network, e-commerce, smart city, drones, selling drones, mass surveillance system, medical platform, selling medical product on platform, blockchain assets, in other words, blockchain is no more than selling you numbers, blockchain assets, asset, not asset, blockchain asset, and standard, fintech, fintech, P2P, those things, P2P bond, P2P loans. So in other words, all these so-called, infrastructure and AI product, of course they got this strategic and, discursive selectivity. China is selling it in terms of a win-win. You come in, we all win, all right? Win-win, China is friendly, all right? So China uses the metaphor of Silk Road imagination, the romance of Silk Road. Not only the romance of Silk Road, and the win-win cooperation of this One Belt, One Road, The win-win is win-win discourse. Win-win discourse, if you ask me from a Foucauldian viewpoint, win-win discourse is deploying the technology of compatibility. That technology of compatibility construct a common digital future, a common digital future that allow for the co-processing of economic incentive. In other words, your incentive is at the same time my incentive. Win-win, ha-ha. So win-win. So co-construction, a technology of compatibility, not a technology of competition, but technology of compatibility. So that, co-processing economic incentive and opportunity to engage other country in this project. And of course, such engagement and consolidation, help China to address its overcapacity problem. Not that China hasn't got an overcapacity problem. Why do they want to export so many bridges? Because they got oversupply of cement and steel. So not only that, but strengthen their possible control of digital network, surveillance sensor, surveillance and their standard, as well as feed into big data for commercial and security purposes. And, nonetheless, at the same time, help to internationalize China's currency. internationalize China's currency. Look at Ukraine, look at Russia now. Look at Russia. If you look at Russia, what's happening? SWIFT, okay? Bar you from it, you can no longer use that sort of system, okay? Well, what's your alternative? Of course, there are many alternatives, okay? But China's already seeing that and trying to use this One Belt, One Road to try to start internationalizing its currency by making people signing contract that you pay in terms of yuan and not American dollar. So more broadly speaking, back to what you were alluding to, and that is, it also escalating into imperial rivalry, okay? Imperial rivalry between, of course, Chinese party-state business interest, okay? And their connection with, okay, Russia, Ukraine, and of course, okay, the imperial rivalry between China, okay, possibly Russia, Ukraine, okay, being the hotspot. And of course, okay, the other side would be the US and US type, okay, techno-financial complex. The US techno-financial complex, of course, okay, European, okay, is in that kind of direction, okay. Google, Amazon, Meta, Facebook in the changing capitalist global political economy that are related to the development of AI data capitalism and at the same time, okay, the, if you like, okay, whole imperial rivalry. So in other words, okay, it's not just simply capitalism, but at the same time, capitalism has developed to that stage where it becomes now imperial rivalry. And the current Ukraine war, okay, at the same time, not only the Ukraine war, the Russia, the China linkage, etc., etc. And of course, okay, there are many hotspots. Ukraine is a hotspot, Hong Kong is a hotspot, my beloved Hong Kong, and Taiwan are hotspots.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's a perfect analysis. Can we examine, for example, the discourse of competitiveness, of the fourth industrial revolution, of construction and the construction of hope, as you put it, and can we put the West as a whole in one part and China in another, or should we differentiate, make a distinction between the EU and the US, for example? Or is it
definitely. No, not one block, not one block at all. But I'm just trying to allude to, okay, not one block, but I'm trying to, okay, allude to the possibility of imperial rivalry. And of course, okay, there are reinvention of European side as well, if you see what I'm trying to say, okay?
Yes.
Ways. Yes. So I won't put them into one block, but because in a talk you have to focus on something, okay? Yes. I focus on the China, US, but I'm not trying to put, okay, the EU, if you see what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
To one block. But on the other hand, there are current, okay, ways where they are rebuilding, okay, some kind of alliances, especially, okay, you know, if you like, especially with Brexit, all right, you know, then you begin to see America, okay, Britain, Australia, okay, that sort of line, okay, if you like to know, the Indo-Pacific, you know, line, okay, developing as well, okay, including India, South Korea, Japan, okay, as being, if you like, okay, and other, I would, if I want to, okay, I have not, you know, thought about it, you know, more carefully, but just a quick answer to your question, I would see them as being sub-imperial, not just imperial, you know, put them under a big block called imperial, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I understand. So there is this hegemonic struggle between two or more blocks, and there is this fight for the narrative, the discourse of hope, for example. The China is also playing with the game, okay, Silk Road and this narrative.
Reinventing the Silk Road.
Win-win for all, and everybody wins, all happy world, and peace and love, and
peace and love. Come to our parties, embassies organizing everything, bring your children. If you ask
it's the same discourse like Klaus Schwab lead it, but in a different the interest, the players are different, but the discourse is similar.
Yeah, this is why I said it's the recontextualization of the discourse. Okay, it's the recontextualization that make it more potent. Because if everybody's using exactly the same, then how do you appeal to these sort of, if you like, half believers? You can appeal to the believers, okay, well, then you don't even have to appeal to them, but the half believers is the game.
Yeah. And the current Ukrainian war, as you said, maybe it could lead or put Russia and China closer together. And there we can see also a very threatening geopolitical scenario when we put, for example, North Korea, Iran, and Russia and China in one part together, and the NATO states on the other side. So yeah, this could be fireworks.
Well, it could be firework, okay, if one narrates it in terms of the new Cold War. But I am still a little bit hesitant, okay, to see it in those terms at the moment. But I might change my mind on that. But I'm still waiting and see, if you see what I mean. Okay, of course, it is quite easy, okay, to narrate in terms of the new Cold War, which, a lot of current journalism are on about anyway. Okay, but the question is I'm still adopting the position of wait and see a bit more first before I want to narrate it in terms of that rhetoric.
I had a very interesting interview with Professor Jeremy Garlick from the Czech Republic, from the university in Prague. And he's an expert on China, and he analyzed in several books the China, for example, Pakistan corridor and the relations and so on and so forth. So China is more on the bilateral side and doing business with Pakistan.
This is why in my piece I said it is contractuality.
Yeah.
IMF type conditionality. Contractuality is even going deeper in a Foucauldian sense.
Yeah.
Contract, bilateral contract, and the bilateral contract is even more micro-technology of control than conditionality of the World Bank and IMF type.
Yeah, for example, and this mechanism is also known by the EU, for example, conditionality. I mean, for example, the EU association agreement with the Ukraine in 2014, which led to this uprising and the Maidan and so on and so forth. So we see it on both sides.
So in other words, what I'm trying to alert people to, okay, as an analytical person, is okay, beware of contractuality. Okay, because I've been in conferences before, okay, and I've heard people say that, okay, well, China has no conditionality. And I just thought, yes, but no, okay, it's using another route, if you see what I'm trying to say. And that route, if you're Foucauldian, you just think of what's in a contract. The rate of interest, those are technology. Those are technology that can tie you down. Okay, the rate of interest, okay, the period of loan, okay, under what condition can you renegotiate loan, etc., etc. And what is the arbitration mechanism, okay? And okay, at the moment, okay, there's well, the arbitration mechanism is still not quite clear.
Yeah, and it's pretty naive to believe that China's government and Communist Party is doing this because they are all good people and they want to invent this Silk Road project to help the world be a better place. So it's quite naive. It's quite naive.
Yeah. Yes. So that's the whole point. That's the whole point about, as I said before, at most China is state capitalism, but I got other pieces that I've written about China, which it's very capitalistic. But the question is that capitalism is done through another venue.
Yeah.
With cooperation between state, party, and business.
Yeah, true. I mentioned Jeremy Garlick, and I forgot to mention that I found it quite amazing and interesting that China is one of the biggest investors in sustainability, in green capitalism, in green growth. And yeah, this is quite amazing. So yeah, that they are also on this path as well, like the EU, like the US. And
yes, it's the Green Silk Road. Green Silk Road. So in fact, I'll only pick on one aspect of the Silk Road to talk about today.
Yeah.
In fact, they are reinventing the Silk Road as being not just simply digital, green, but at the same time, health. Silk Road. Yep. It's the mix of the three. No, but anyway, I have not got the time to talk about those now.
Yes.
I just thought I will pick on, one aspect to that.
So yeah, that was my last question.
All right. Yeah. Well,
I not only enjoyed talking to you, I not only enjoyed reading your articles and books. I watched your lectures, and yeah, I hopefully.
Right. I didn't even know that they're available.
I learned a lot, and hopefully I can use this knowledge in my PhD thesis. And yeah, thank you very much for your time and for this interview.
Thank you for the invitation. And as I said, not only to you, but to other people. If you're interested in CPE, please write to n.sum@lancaster.ac.uk, and then I will more than willing send you the book. And please, if you want to keep in touch, how you do it, I'll be more than happy to hear from you. Because as I said, this is a very, very big project. We're only really trying to, map a tiny little bit, to hope to look at the interweaving or trying to do some interweaving between Marx, Gramsci, and Foucault. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Nice to meet you.